It was a rainy Thursday afternoon in March in Boston. The spring drizzle fell on the cobblestones of Beacon Hill, and I, George Mitchell, 88 years old, walked through the corridors of Suffolk County Courthouse with still, steady steps, though my heart beat irregularly. My son Michael walked beside me, but not with me. The difference was subtle yet painful. His eyes avoided mine, fixed on the iPhone he never put down for even a second. The courtroom smelled of old wood polish and musty law books. The judge, a man too young to understand the weight of years, leafed through the case documents. Guardianship proceedings. My own son wanted to have me declared incompetent to manage my life and assets. The brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue I'd bought after 52 years, running a chain of hardware stores across New England. The beach house in Cape Cod. The 8 rental properties in Back Bay. All of this he wanted to manage. Michael adjusted his Brooks Brothers tie, one of those that cost more than the average weekly paycheck, and began to speak. His voice had that calculated coldness of corporate lawyers who learn to separate sentiment from business. But he wasn't a lawyer. He was my son, my only son, after my daughters Elizabeth and Sarah had moved to San Francisco and Seattle. Your Honor, my father is no longer capable of managing the family estate. He forgets bills, confuses appointments, trusts anyone and everyone. Each word was a dagger. I looked at him, trying to find something of the boy I used to take to Fenway Park on Sunday afternoons. That's when he said it. He turned to the judge, completely ignoring my presence, as if I were an old piece of furniture gathering dust in the corner of the room, and said with frightening naturalness, "Old people just get in the way, Your Honor. Someone with energy needs to take the reins before it's too late." The judge raised his eyebrows, surprised by the brutality of the statement. I felt the world spin in slow motion, as if someone had turned off the sound around me. Old people just get in the way. 5 decades of raising, educating, paying for Phillips Academy, Harvard Business School, the condo in the seaport when he got married. Old people just get in the way. I didn't say a word. The judge set a new hearing for 30 days hence, time for me to present my defense. Michael left first, already on the phone with someone, probably Jennifer, his wife, the one who never liked me from the first Thanksgiving dinner. I remained seated a few more minutes on that hard chair, looking at the yellowed walls of the court. A court officer came to ask if everything was all right. I said yes, but it was a lie. The cab that took me home seemed to navigate in slow motion through the streets of Boston. The cabbie tried to strike up conversation about the Red Sox, but I could only hear the echo of that phrase. When I arrived home, Maria was in the kitchen as always. Maria Santos, 66 years old, originally from Portugal, from a small village near Porto, had worked for me for exactly 26 years. She'd started as a housekeeper when my wife Margaret was still alive. After Margaret passed away 14 years ago, Maria naturally took charge of caring for the house and for me. Maria immediately noticed something was wrong. She had this gift of reading people, especially me. "Mr. Mitchell, you look pale as a ghost. I'll make you some chamomile tea." I held her hand as she passed by me. "Maria, I need to speak with you. But first, call Attorney Morrison." James Morrison was my lawyer for 45 years, a trusted man who'd handled all my affairs since the days when Boston's financial district was still dominated by old Yankee firms. While we waited for Morrison, I told Maria everything. She listened in silence, her brown eyes filling with an indignation she tried to disguise. "Mr. Michael has always been like that, Mr. Mitchell. Since he was little, Mrs. Margaret, God rest her soul, always said he had a cold heart." It was true. Margaret knew our son better than I did. I'd always been blinded by the pride of having a son to carry on the family name. Morrison arrived in less than an hour. He carried a brown leather briefcase under his arm, and that serious air of someone who'd seen everything in life. The 3 of us sat in the dining room, the same one where years ago the entire family would gather for Sunday dinner. Now it was just the heavy silence and the ticking of the grandfather clock. "George, you have full mental capacity. Any medical examination will confirm that, but I understand you want to make provisions. Morrison knew me well. It was then I made the decision that would change everything. James, I want to transfer everything to Maria. Everything. The brownstone, the Cape House, the rental properties, the investment accounts, everything. Maria nearly dropped the coffee cup she was holding. Mr. Mitchell, you cannot do this. I cannot accept. But my decision was made. In 26 years, Maria had been more family to me than my own blood. She'd cared for Margaret in her final months with a dedication that not even my daughters had shown. She'd looked after me when I had my hip replacement, when I had pneumonia, when the loneliness after Margaret's death nearly consumed me. Morrison explained it was possible, but we needed to act quickly. A living trust with life estate for me. I would continue living in the house, enjoying everything, but Maria would be the legal owner. And there's more, said Morrison. We can include clauses making it ironclad against challenges. Even if they try to contest it, it will be nearly impossible. Maria wept quietly, repeating that she didn't deserve so much. I took her work-worn hands. Maria, you gave me back my dignity when I needed it most. That's priceless. We spent the rest of the afternoon organizing the documents. Morrison called his office, arranged everything for early the next morning. Maria insisted on preparing my favorite meal for dinner, New England clam chowder and pot roast the way only she could make them, with that perfect touch of thyme and red wine. We ate in silence, but it was a comfortable silence, the kind that only exists between people who understand each other without words. That night, lying in the bed where I'd slept with Margaret for 59 years, I couldn't stop thinking about the irony of the situation. Michael had always complained that I gave too much attention to the help. Dad, you treat these people like they're family, he'd say with disdain. Now, these people would literally own everything he coveted. The next morning, Friday, I woke to the song of cardinals in the garden. Maria had already prepared breakfast. Fresh bagels from the corner deli, scrambled eggs, strong coffee the way I liked it. She was nervous. I could see it in the slight trembling of her hands as she poured the coffee. Mr. Mitchell, I've been thinking all night. What if you regret it? What if your family? I interrupted her. Maria, my true family is here at this table. The rest are just people who share my blood. We went to Morrison's office on State Street. The partners at the firm had known me for decades. They were surprised by the magnitude of the transaction, but asked no questions. Maria signed the papers with a trembling hand. When we left the office, she was officially the owner of an estate valued at over $15 million. But with one condition: I would have life estate in everything, and she committed to continuing to care for me until my final days. We had lunch at the Union Oyster House. Maria had never been in such a restaurant. She ordered water and said she wasn't hungry, but I insisted she order what she wanted. She finally chose the lobster roll. She ate with the natural elegance some people are born with, regardless of social class. We talked about trivial things. The upcoming Patriot season, the evening news, spring refusing to arrive. But beneath this forced normality, we both knew we'd just created an earthquake that would shake the family structures. Michael discovered everything the following Tuesday. He appeared at the house at 2 in the afternoon, pounding on the door with unnecessary force. Maria went to answer, and he entered like a hurricane. "Where is my father?" he shouted, red with rage. I was in the library reading the Globe. I stood calmly as he approached. "Dad, what have you done? Morrison's office called me about the deeds I requested. Everything's in the name of this maid." The word maid came out of his mouth like an insult. Maria remained dignified, standing in the doorway, without being intimidated. "Michael, sit down. Let's talk like civilized people." But he was beside himself. "Civilized? You've given everything to a stranger. This is undue influence. She manipulated you. I'll have this reversed. I'll prove you're not of sound mind." It was Maria who answered with a calm that surprised me. "Mr. Michael, your father is perfectly lucid. All the medical examinations we did last week confirm it. The neurologist, the psychiatrist, the geriatrician. I have all the certificates. Your father made a conscious decision." Michael looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. "You planned all this, you snake. You took advantage of his old age." I stood up. At 88, I was still taller than my son. "Michael, you said old people just get in the way. Well, this old person will no longer get in your way. Maria has cared for me and your mother with more love than you've shown in your entire adult life. She deserves everything she has now." Michael pulled out his phone, probably to call his lawyer. "This isn't over. I'll contest this trust. I'll prove there was coercion." Morrison, whom I'd warned that Michael would come, arrived at that moment. He carried a folder with copies of all the documents. "Michael, your father has done everything within the law. Medical examinations attesting to full capacity, credible witnesses, proper legal documentation. And furthermore, we've included specific clauses about possible family challenges. Your father recorded a video in the presence of 3 witnesses explaining his reasons. You can try, but you'll spend a fortune on lawyers for nothing." Michael looked at each of us. His face went from the red of rage to the white of comprehension. He'd lost. Not just the assets, but he'd lost long before that. He'd lost the moment he chose to see his father as a burden rather than a blessing. "You'll regret this," he said, walking out. It was the last time I saw him in person. The following weeks were tense. Michael tried everything. He mobilized his sisters, who flew in from San Francisco and Seattle. They held a family meeting without inviting me, then all appeared together at the house. But when they saw the documents, when they heard my reasons, when Maria showed the notebooks where she'd recorded all the medical care, all the prescriptions, all the moments she'd been present when they were absent, the silence was eloquent. Elizabeth, my eldest daughter, was the first to understand. "Dad, you've done what you thought right. Maria has always been good to you." Then she embraced Maria and whispered, "Take care of him," which moved me. Sarah left without saying goodbye, showing solidarity with her brother in his indignation. But Elizabeth stayed for dinner. We ate, the 3 of us, and for the first time in years, I felt I truly had a daughter at the table. The guardianship proceedings were dismissed. The judge, after seeing the medical certificates and taking my deposition, concluded there was no legal basis to declare me incompetent. Michael didn't appear at the final hearing. He only sent his lawyer, who seemed embarrassed by the whole situation. When I left the court, the same one where I'd heard that old people just get in the way, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. Maria changed gradually, not arrogantly, but with new confidence. She hired an assistant for the heavier household work, a trustworthy woman called Rosa, also from Portugal. She began studying, got her GED, enrolled in a nursing program at Bunker Hill Community College. "I want to care for you with more knowledge, Mr. Mitchell," she said. On Sunday afternoons, when weather permitted, we'd sit in the garden and play chess, as I used to do with Margaret. The Cape House, which Michael wanted so much, Maria made it productive again. She rented it out during summer months to families, maintaining it perfectly. The rental properties in Back Bay she kept leased, but now with new, fairer contracts. The money coming in, she invested wisely, always consulting me, always transparent in every decision. One day, about 18 months later, Michael sent his daughter, my granddaughter Emma, with a message. Maria received her warmly, made the chocolate chip cookies the girl had loved since childhood. Emma was embarrassed, clearly fulfilling a mission she didn't want. "Grandpa, Dad asks if you won't reconsider. He says he's learned his lesson." I took my granddaughter's hand. "My dear, tell your father I forgive him, but the decisions made are irreversible. And tell him also that you'll always be welcome in this house." Emma began coming regularly, first secretly from her father, then openly defying his prohibition. Maria treated her like the granddaughter she'd never had. She taught her recipes, listened to her teenage stories, gave advice about boys. I watched the 2 of them and thought about how life has curious ways of reorganizing families. One evening in December, as the Boston cold relented and Christmas lights illuminated Newbury Street, Maria brought me news. She'd been accepted to the nursing program at Northeastern University. At 66 years old, she would realize the dream that poverty had denied in her youth. "But don't worry, Mr. Mitchell. I'll study in the evenings. During the day, I'll continue caring for you." I embraced her, moved. "Maria, you no longer need to care for me out of obligation." She smiled. "It's not an obligation, Mr. Mitchell. It's gratitude and it's love." Michael tried one last card. He appeared on my 89th birthday with Jennifer and a cake. Maria received them politely, served coffee, maintained the dignity she'd always had. Michael was different, thinner, prematurely grey hair. The law firm he'd started with my money years earlier wasn't doing well. Jennifer was visibly uncomfortable. When Maria went out to fetch more coffee, Michael approached. "Dad, I was wrong, very wrong. Can't we be a family again?" I looked at my son and saw not the greedy man who'd tried to have me declared incompetent, but the boy I hadn't known how to educate to value what truly matters. "Michael, will always be family, but family isn't about money or property. It's about presence, care, respect." Maria taught me that. He lowered his head. "And the assets?" I was honest. "The assets have a new owner, and it was the best decision of my life." Jennifer pulled Michael to leave. Before going out, he looked at Maria, who was returning with the coffee tray. "Take good care of him," he said, and there was sincerity in his voice. Maria replied simply, "I always have, Mr. Michael, I always have." Life went on. Maria graduated with honors. On graduation day, I was in the front row, giving a standing ovation. Elizabeth flew in from San Francisco for the occasion. Even Emma was there, already a pre-med student at Boston University. The family that had formed around that dining table was different from the one blood had given me, but it was authentic in its affection. 2 years later, on a May morning during Memorial Day weekend, I woke feeling weak. Maria, now a qualified nurse, recognized the signs before I said anything. "We're going to Mass General, Mr. Mitchell." I had a minor heart attack. Nothing serious, but enough for a fright. Michael appeared at the hospital, genuinely concerned. Elizabeth and Sarah came too. But who stayed by my side night and day was Maria. During recovery, we had much time to talk. Maria told me her whole story: the father who died young, the mother who raised 7 children alone in Porto, the sacrifices to survive, how she'd had to leave school to work, how she'd come to America seeking a better life, how she'd decided that caring for others would be her life's mission. "You gave me more than material goods, Mr. Mitchell. You gave me dignity, education, a future. How could I not care for you?" Michael began visiting regularly, without ulterior motives, just as a son. He brought Emma. Sometimes Elizabeth came too. Maria received everyone with the same grace, prepared the dishes each one loved, created a home atmosphere that had been lost for a long time. Little by little, Michael and Maria developed mutual respect. He recognized in her the dedication he hadn't had. She saw in him the wounded son who needed forgiveness. One Sunday afternoon, we were all gathered for dinner. Michael, Jennifer, Emma, Elizabeth with her husband and children, even Sarah had come. Maria had prepared a proper feast. Traditional Thanksgiving dinner in May, turkey with all the fixings, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie, all of New England cuisine in its glory. Michael raised his glass of apple cider. "I want to propose a toast to Maria, who taught this family the true meaning of care." Everyone toasted. Maria cried discreetly. After dinner, while everyone chatted in the living room, Michael took me aside. "Dad, I understand now. You didn't punish me. You taught me. Maria earned every penny, every square foot. She's more your daughter than I ever was your son." I embraced my son, and for the first time in years, it was a true embrace. Today, at 93, I still live in the same brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue. Maria built a small apartment in the basement, where she lives with Rosa, whom we discovered to be her niece. But she spends her days with me, now no longer as a caregiver, but as the daughter I chose. Michael comes to dinner every Friday evening. He brings wine, Maria cooks, we talk about everything and nothing. The rental properties in Back Bay, Maria transformed them into affordable housing for elderly immigrants. The Cape House became a respite home for family caregivers. The money left over, she invests in education. She's already put 11 nieces and nephews through college, sponsors a daycare, maintains a community library. "You taught me that money that doesn't circulate rots," she says. Sometimes, sitting in the garden watching the Charles River in the distance, I think about how a phrase said in a moment of greed changed so many lives. Old people just get in the way. Michael was partly right. Old people do get in the way. They get in the way of greed, ingratitude, lack of love, and it was by getting in the way of these bad feelings that I found a true family. Maria is now doing a specialization in geriatrics at Boston College. She wants to specialize in elderly care. "There are many Mr. Mitchells out there who need proper care," she says. Michael supported her, even helped pay for the course. His transformation was genuine. He discovered that true inheritance isn't measured in dollars, but in transmitted values. Last week, Emma, now a qualified doctor, brought her fiancé to meet me, a serious young man, cardiology fellow at Brigham and Women's. During dinner, he asked about our particular family. Emma answered with pride, "We have the most beautiful family in the world. My grandfather chose love over blood, and we all learned from that." Maria served dessert, that Boston cream pie only she can make, and winked at me. That night before sleeping, Maria came to check my blood pressure, as she does every evening. "All's well, Mr. Mitchell. You'll live many more years." I held her hand. "Maria, I must tell you something. I've already spoken with Morrison. When I go, I want you to transform this house into a senior living facility. But a different facility, where old people don't get in the way, where they're at the center of everything." She squeezed my hand. "It will be called Mitchell House, and it will be the most loving home in all of Boston." Michael learned of the idea and, surprisingly, wanted to participate. He offered the law firm's services pro bono for the legal side. Elizabeth and Sarah mobilized too. Elizabeth would handle the administrative part, Sarah the fundraising. The family that nearly broke apart through greed was reuniting through love. The project is already underway. Maria has done courses in senior care management. Michael obtained permits and licenses. Elizabeth organized a fundraising campaign. The brownstone next door was for sale. We bought it to expand. Soon, where today lives one old person who doesn't get in the way, will live 20 old people who don't get in the way, cared for with the same love Maria devoted to me. Yesterday, Michael brought the final documents for my signature. As I signed, he said, "Dad, do you know what my greatest inheritance was?" I looked questioningly. It was learning that love isn't inherited, it's earned. Maria earned what I thought was mine by right, and through that, she taught me to earn it too. I signed the last paper. Mitchell House was officially created. Maria entered the room with coffee. She served Michael first, then me. She sat with us. 3 people whom fate brought together improbably. A father who discovered a daughter in the care of a stranger. A son who learned the hardest lesson about family, and a simple woman who, with her dedication, rewrote all our stories. The Boston sun streamed through the window, illuminating the dining room where it all began, where one day I decided that old people who get in the way deserve more than ingratitude, where Maria accepted a responsibility she transformed into a blessing, where Michael learned that true family is built with presence, not blood ties. Today is Friday. Michael will come to dinner, as always. Maria is preparing lobster bisque, his favorite now. Emma called to say she's coming too. She wants to announce something. Elizabeth arrives tomorrow from San Francisco to finalize details of the senior facility. Life goes on, full of meaning. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Michael hadn't said that phrase in court. Probably I would have lost everything to someone who saw in me only a walking ATM. But he said it, and by saying old people just get in the way, He gave me the chance to prove that old people, when respected and loved, transform lives. Maria enters the room now, bringing my afternoon medication. She takes each pill with me, checking I've swallowed properly. Then she sits beside me, as she does every day at this time. We remain in comfortable silence, watching the street. A silence that says more than all words. A silence that tells the story of a family not born of blood, but of the daily choice to care and be cared for. The phone rings. It's Michael. He asks if he can bring a friend to dinner, an investor interested in supporting the senior facility. Maria takes the phone and says there's always food for one more. She hangs up and looks at me. "Your family is beautiful, Mr. Mitchell." I correct her. "Our family, Maria. Our family." And so, on this Boston afternoon, while America outside debates inheritances and rights, here in this house, a different story is written. A story where a cruel phrase became the greatest blessing, where a housekeeper became an heiress, where a greedy son discovered the value of love, and where an old man who got in the way finally found his place in the world. Not as a burden, but as the axis around which a true family learned to revolve. Maria rises to continue dinner preparations, but first kisses my forehead. A simple, routine gesture, but full of meaning. The same gesture Margaret used to make. The gesture of someone who cares because they love, not because they must. And I, George Mitchell, at 93 years old, discovered that the greatest inheritance we can leave isn't with the lawyer, but in the hearts of those we choose to love and who choose to love us back. What do you think? Did George do the right thing? Was it fair to give everything to Maria after the way his son treated him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our emotional stories. Share this video with someone who needs to know that true family isn't always about blood. Thank you for watching.